In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
We'll be in your show plenty because you have a great show and you have big ratings, Sid. I don't even know if you know how good your show is, okay? But you have big ratings and you have a great show and you've been my friend for a long time and I appreciate it.
I love most of the people at Fox News. I think it's the best watch in terms of political news on TV by far. And a lot of the folks I like, some I don't. We'll save that for later. But I love Dana Perino. I think she's terrific on the 5 and earlier in the day with Bill Hammer. And she is a very talented young lady. And she could also write books. She's written a bunch, fiction, nonfiction. She's got her new book out right now. We're very excited to bring her on and talk about this new book. And she's on tour with Purple State starting this Saturday at a lovely place, Point Pleasant Beach in New Jersey. It's the Little Point Bookshop. Again, it's at Point Pleasant Beach High School. That'll be at 2 o'clock, and Emily Campagno will be there, too. Then Monday the 4th, I'll be at the Yankee game, but she'll be in Brookville, New York, at Theodore's Books at LIU Post, Gold Coast Cinema, 7 o'clock Monday night with Rep. Steve Israel. Dana, you're a rock star, a superstar. Congratulations.
Oh, my gosh. I got to say, Sid, I got to listen to your show every morning. It hyped me up for the day. I can't listen to these political podcasts anymore after listening to that. I loved it.
Thank you.
It took me back in the day.
Well, the show does, and the president loves this show too, because what you get is, because you're a very savvy media person, it's kind of like that Imus, Howard Stern. We do sports, we do lifestyle, we play great music. We put the emphasis on news, political, both local, because I hate Mamdani. I hate his guts. Hate him. And I love President Trump. So we get all that. It's a 4-hour variety show every morning, and you will love it, Dana. Trust me.
It's fun. My husband met you at Paul Morrow's award ceremony at the Retired Detectives, where you got an award too, I believe, right?
Yes, I did meet him. He was lovely. It was at Frankie Russo's place. Russo's on the Bay in Howard Beach. 3 awards. It was me, Paul Morrow, your colleague at Fox News, and the great cop Bo Dietl. And it was a lovely night. The cops are very good to me. They've always been good to me. So I did meet your husband that night and tell him I said hello. Let me get to this. You got it. Purple State. You know, my house is somewhat divided. My wife been a Democrat her whole life. She has now come along. Yeah, she's now come along. Well, I was a Democrat, too, most of my life. I was a Democrat. I love that Kachi. You know, it wasn't until President Trump, 9 years ago, not even 10, because I initially voted for Hillary. He knows that. We're very, very close to President and I, but he knows initially I voted for Hillary because I didn't trust him to be a great president. It took me 3 months to figure out how great he is. But my wife and I, we were divided for a long time on that. And my daughter and other friends and family, I have a sister who I don't talk to very often because of it. So the divide really exists, Dana, in lots of homes across America.
Yeah, it does. And I hate to hear that it would, strain family relations, though I know that's true. I've heard about it, and certainly there are friendships that can be strained as well. People have sort of resorted themselves out. My idea for Purple State was to write about these 3 young women who are hot stuff in New York City. They're 25 years old, but they're kind of going through that quarter-life crisis that all these young women that I mentor are going through. And one of them thinks, I really want to work on a political campaign. Maybe I went into the wrong career. And she convinces her 2 friends to go to Wisconsin and work for a super PAC on the election. And they get to Wisconsin, and all of a sudden they're confronted with rural America and small town businesses that, like, for example, like where you all live, which are so wonderful. And then they meet these 3 Republican guys and romance ensues, and they have big decisions to make.
That is so interesting. They leave the bluest of blue. That is an awesome premise. They leave the bluest of blue. They go to the red, Wisconsin. So I would have to imagine that purple state it really refers to the guys and the girls, the mix of the blue and the red, who eventually they become. You got to read the book to find that out. But the mix of the blue and the red, is that how you got purple state?
Kind of. Well, yes, I think it has like what would we call it? A double entendre.
Right.
Because Wisconsin is the ultimate purple state. George Bush lost it in 2000, won it in 2004, and it's gone back and forth every since. Every election it flips. So no matter who runs in 2028, you will hear a lot about Wisconsin because it's the ultimate purple state. One of the things that Hillary Clinton made a big mistake in 2016 is she didn't bother going to Michigan and Wisconsin, even though the campaign people on the ground were saying, we could use your help. Well, she didn't go, and obviously she might have lost anyway, but I know that the Democrats look to Wisconsin now as like the place to win.
You know what's funny about that Hillary Clinton story, Dana, the great Dana Perino here? You know who took her to task for that? Bill, her own husband. He actually, you remember that? You remember that?
Because he's a good campaigner.
Yeah. He's like, honey, what are you doing? You're practically giving this to President Trump. So Dot, I guess, is the protagonist in this book. I know these other characters, Danny Dawson, hockey-loving local. I love hockey, too. Big Ranger fan. But Dot is you do, too. So Dot is the protagonist, and by the time you finish this book, will the reader love Dot? How will the reader feel about Dot?
Yeah. This is one of the things that I love about this is because I feel like we're at a time, especially when young women are cutting themselves off from half of the dating pool because they'll say, well, I would never date anybody who would disagree with me or vote differently. And I feel like these girls make really good decisions. And I know to a person who's read the book so far, they all like all three of the characters, all three girls, all three guys. And I'm not going to give away the ending, but I will say that you're going to cry at the end, but it'll be happy tears. Even you, Sid, even you will cry.
Oh, I'm a big crier. I cry at everything. They actually call me the John Boehner of radio. I cry at everything.
Yeah, I'm a big crier, too. I cry at everything happy.
Yeah, well, me too. I cry happy. I cry sad. Listen, I got to tell you the truth. We mentioned Wisconsin in your great book here, Purple State. I arrived for the RNC. I was talking at the beginning of the show about this Hulk Hogan piece on Netflix. One of the best pieces I've ever seen. I'm not a big wrestling guy. I love Hulk. I really loved him from the last couple of months with President Trump. But I love this piece, and it made me cry. But I got to Wisconsin for the RNC Saturday morning. I was sitting on my bed in my hotel room. I had just hung up my clothes, watching Fox News when the president was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I started to cry. I said, I don't know if he was dead or alive. And here we are, right? That was in Wisconsin, ironically. And I just saw this Hulk Hogan piece, and they play his great speech at the RNC. And here we are, Dana Perino, going through it again. And it will happen again. And it will happen again. And if God is good to us, the Secret Service will get a little better at their job and make sure that our friend doesn't end up dead. This is a very scary time in our country.
In addition, I would say that some people will say, well, look, if you look at our country, we've had political violence since our founding in 250 years ago. One thing that's different right now is the people who are committing the violence right now, they're most, the through line is on the left. They're also highly educated, and they're rationalizing it by saying, well, if he's Hitler, I got to do something. And they're not taking the responsibility of somebody who understands right from wrong. They think it is correct and right and morally, that they are morally obligated to do something. And so you look at, I would even put this, I would say about Luigi Mangione, and all of a sudden he has all of these fans. And Sid, I don't know what we do about that. I think the first thing we have to do is diagnose the problem. And what I've seen since Saturday night's White House Correspondents' Dinner is that there were 2 hours of unity led by President Trump. And then we were right back to it where the left, like Hakeem Jeffries, saying, well, it's both sides. It's both sides. And that will lead you to not solving the problem if you don't diagnose it correctly.
It reminded me, I know you got to run, but yesterday the king laid the wreath at the 9/11 site, and it made me nauseous that Mamdani was there. Mamdani, his best buddy is Hassan Piker. He admits that, okay? He's never distanced himself from Hassan, and we know, of course, the whole story. He was a guest on Hassan's podcast, and Hassan the Hun said America deserved 9/11. He got no pushback, zero from Mamdani. So Mamdani should never, I don't care if he's the mayor, okay? He should never, ever, ever be anywhere near that sacred site where 3,000 of our beautiful New Yorkers died just from going to work that day, okay? He's a bad guy. Get him out of there. So anyway, he's over there yesterday. But after 9/11, I remember it was the same, kind of the same in that people love the cops. They love the firefighters. They love the first responders. And 2 weeks after that, cops were back to being pigs. I don't know what it is about our country, but they can't seem to grasp the notion that the way they feel the day after some tragedy is probably the way they should feel for an extended period of time.
Yes, and Sid, not only are we celebrating this year and marking the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country, but it's somewhat hard to believe, but this September will be the 25th anniversary of 9/11. And America has never forgotten. And certainly at Fox News, we cover the entire ceremony every year. And America is really at a crossroads right now about, do we go forward for another 250 years with some unity? Yeah, we have some problems. Just yesterday when the Supreme Court said that you cannot draw legislative districts just based on race, you would think that the world was falling apart on the left.
Oh.
Instead of saying, well, yeah, that's true. Our Constitution says you can't do that. So let's not do that. And let's get fair representation for everyone. And we've come a long way as a country. That doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we don't have more to do. But saying the sky is falling every time there's a Supreme Court decision.
Yeah.
So you don't have any rationality.
No. And the guy that headed all that was a guy that I still think is the worst president ever. He was a guy that BLM was born under. He was a guy that delivered pallets of cash to the Palestinians, went straight to Hamas at 3 o'clock in the morning. He was the guy that did that terrible Iran deal with John Kerry. He was the guy that came up with that awful health care plan that is destroying most Americans every day. He was the guy that stood idly by as ISIS, which you called the JV, were killing people all over the world. He was the guy that was there when Michael Brown was in Ferguson, Missouri, and Freddie Gray was in Baltimore and Garner on Staten Island. His name is Barack Obama. And he may talk nicely, okay? He's an eloquent guy, but he was a horrible president. And he was at the very forefront of what you're talking about yesterday, complaining. And you said that we never forgot. We did forget. New York did forget. Because the only way you can ever elect Mamdani to be the mayor of this city the same year as a 25-year commemoration is if you forgot.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I would say that I know that you haven't, I haven't, and certainly your listeners haven't.
No, they haven't. Okay, so on the way out here, Dana, again, you got a big day coming up Saturday in Point Pleasant Beach, which is beautiful, and Monday night in Brookville, New York. When people read this great book, Purple State, you want them to leave thinking what?
That America is a great place, and that here's the thing, Sid. If you are born in America and you're a young woman who is educated, you don't have to worry your 20s away. Find someone to love, commit to somebody, and it will not hurt your career. It can actually enhance it.
God bless you. My wife's a big-time attorney. My daughter, she's 22. She's going to Pennsylvania to get her LLM. She just graduated with honors. Yeah, in Wales, Cardiff University. She's actually...
Wow.
Yeah, she's working with Arthur Aidala right now and my daughter Ava. So I got some very strong women in my family. But, Dana, I can't thank you enough for what you do for women all over the country every day. You're great on TV. You're a great author. You're a hero. Dana Perino, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Sid.
God bless you. Take care. Dana Perino right there, folks. Check out the new book, Purple State. Check her out in New Jersey Saturday and on Long Island on Monday.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.